The Carolina Panthers just officially picked up the fifth-year option for Bryce Young, guaranteeing him over $26 million. This proves Dan Morgan is fully committed to his quarterback. But before we break this down, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that like button. We are trying to hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers, so please support the channel. Now, let me tell you why this decision by Dan Morgan is the most critical move of the offseason so far. When you look at the landscape of the NFL, the fifth-year option is the ultimate litmus test for a front office's belief in a young signal caller. By triggering this now, I see a clear message being sent to the locker room, the fan base, and the rest of the league. Bryce Young is the undisputed face of this franchise through at least 2027. We are talking about $26.5 million in fully guaranteed money for that fifth year. That is not a small chunk of change, especially for a player who faced as much scrutiny as Bryce did during a very difficult rookie campaign. I've spent a lot of time looking at the tape from last year, and while the numbers were not pretty, the context matters more than the box score. I saw a kid who was under constant duress, playing behind an offensive line that was a turnstile for most of the season, and throwing to a receiving core that struggled to create any meaningful separation. Despite all that, I saw the flashes of the brilliance that made him the #1 overall pick. I saw the elite processing speed, the ability to navigate a collapsing pocket, and the poise that earned him a Heisman Trophy. Dan Morgan and Dave Canales clearly saw the same thing. They're not just looking at what happened in 2023, they're looking at the ceiling of what Bryce Young can become in a stable environment. I think it is important to realize that the Panthers are finally acting like a serious organization by providing this stability. In years past, we saw a lot of reactionary moves and a lack of clear direction. Picking up this option early shows that the plan is set in stone. I believe Dan Morgan is trying to remove any shadow of a doubt regarding Bryce's standing with the team. This allows the quarterback to focus entirely on the playbook and building chemistry with his new weapons without the looming distraction of a contract battle or a prove-it year hanging over his head in the traditional sense. When I look at how the market for quarterbacks is exploding, $26 million for a starting caliber quarterback in 2027 might actually end up being a massive bargain. If Bryce takes the leap I expect him to take under Dave Canales, we will look back at this day as a masterclass in asset management. I have talked to people around the league who believe Bryce's biggest hurdle was never his talent or his size, but the chaotic environment he was drafted into. By bringing in a guy like Canales, who is known as a quarterback whisperer after what he did for Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, I see a pathway for Bryce to enter the elite tier of NFC quarterbacks. This fifth-year option is the foundation of that house. I want to emphasize that this is not just a financial decision, it is a psychological one. I have seen many young quarterbacks crumble when they feel their team is looking for the next best thing. By making this announcement now, the Panthers are telling Bryce that they have his back. I think we will see a much more confident version of number 9 on the field this September. I am also looking at how this impacts the rest of the roster construction. Knowing Bryce is locked in allows Morgan to be more aggressive in future drafts and free agency periods because the most expensive position on the field has a fixed cost for the next few years. I have to give credit to the front office for not overthinking this. There was some talk among pundits that maybe they should wait and see how he performs this year, but I disagree with that approach. Waiting only creates unnecessary noise. I like the decisiveness I am seeing from the new regime. It feels like there is finally an adult in the room who understands that you cannot build a winning culture on uncertainty. I am watching the development of the offensive line very closely because that is where the investment in Bryce Young truly begins. You can pay him all the money in the world, but if he is on his back, it doesn't matter. The commitment shown today by picking up the option is the first step in a much larger journey to restore the pride of the Carolina Panthers. I am convinced that Bryce has the mental toughness to handle the pressure that comes with this guarantee. He has been the guy since he was a kid in California, through his days at Alabama, and now in the pros. I don't think the dollar amount changes his approach, but it certainly changes the narrative surrounding the team. I have seen too many franchises cycle through quarterbacks because they are too afraid to commit. I am glad I am seeing the Panthers take a different route. I'm excited to see how this translates to the practice field during training camp because a settled quarterback is a productive quarterback. I will be monitoring every snap and every throw to see if that newfound security leads to more aggressive playmaking down the field.
As we move into the deeper implications of this $26 million commitment, I want to focus on the supporting cast that I believe will finally unlock Bryce Young's potential. It is one thing to pick up an option, but it is another thing entirely to build a fortress around your investment. I look at the additions of Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis as the true turning point for this offense. I have analyzed their film, and these are guys who bring a physical mean streak to the interior of the line. I think this is exactly what Bryce needs to feel comfortable stepping up in the pocket. When I see a team spend over $100 million on guards, I see a team that is obsessed with protecting their quarterback's vision. I also have to talk about the receiving room. Bringing in Deontay Johnson was a stroke of genius by Dan Morgan. I have always viewed Johnson as one of the best route runners in the league, someone who can win at the line of scrimmage instantly. For a quarterback like Bryce, who relies on timing and anticipation, having a guy who is always where he is supposed to be is a game changer. Then you add the explosive element of Xavier Legette. I see a young man with a massive frame and incredible speed who can take the top off a defense. This variety of weapons means that defenses can no longer just zero in on Adam Thielen. I am expecting to see Bryce's completion percentage jump significantly this year because the windows will be wider and the protection will be sturdier. I also want to touch on the Dave Canales effect. I have seen what he does for a quarterback's footwork and decision-making process. He simplifies the game and plays to the strengths of his signal caller. I believe we'll see a lot more bootlegs and moving pockets to give Bryce clear throwing lanes. I am also anticipating a much more robust running game. I have heard Canales speak about the importance of being stubborn with the run, and I think that is music to Bryce Young's ears. A successful ground game is a young quarterback's best friend. I look at the NFC South right now, and I see a division that is wide open. With the Falcons betting on Kirk Cousins and the Saints and Bucks staying relatively stagnant, I believe there is a window for the Panthers to surprise people. If Bryce Young plays even marginally better than he did last year, this team is going to be in a lot of close games. I am convinced that the stability provided by this fifth-year option will allow the entire organization to breathe a sigh of relief. I have seen how tension in the front office can seep down into the locker room, and by making this move, Dan Morgan has cleared the air. I am looking forward to seeing how the leadership dynamics shift now that Bryce knows he is the man for the long haul. I want to see him take more ownership of the huddle and the sideline. I have seen glimpses of that leadership, but now it is time for it to become his primary trait. I am also curious to see how the defense responds. When a defense knows they have a quarterback who can sustain drives and put points on the board, they play with a different level of intensity. I think the whole team is going to feel the ripple effects of this commitment. I have spent decades covering this league, and I can tell you that when a team goes all in on a quarterback like this, it usually leads to a significant jump in performance. I am not saying the Panthers are going to the Super Bowl tomorrow, but I am saying the foundation is finally solid. I see a clear 3-year window now where the Panthers can build a contender around a quarterback on a controlled cost. That is the blueprint for success in the modern NFL. I want to wrap this up by saying that the fans in Carolina deserve this kind of clarity. It has been a long few years of transition, but I truly believe the era of Bryce Young is just beginning. I will be here to break down every game and every move as we see if this $26 million bet pays off. I am betting that it will. I see a kid with too much talent and too much heart to fail once he has the right pieces in place. I think we are going to look back at the 2024 offseason as the moment the Panthers finally got it right. I am encouraged by the vision of Dan Morgan and the energy of Dave Canales. They are building something the right way from the inside out. I am excited to be on this journey with all of you as we watch this team grow. Make sure you stay tuned to the channel because I will have a lot more analysis coming your way as we get closer to the season opener. I am ready to see what Bryce can do now that the distractions are gone. Thank you for following along and supporting the channel. I really appreciate the community we are building here. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video so we can keep bringing you the latest and most in-depth Panthers news. I will see you in the next one as we continue to track the rise of the Carolina Panthers and their franchise quarterback.